Hey, it's Monica. Welcome to the Art of Living Boldly. On this channel, we talk about the psychology, philosophy, and art of living boldly. In this video, we are going to dive into one of my favorite topics, and it's one of the 3 essential ingredients, the 3 meta skills that you need if you want to connect to your boldness. And this one is all about self-trust. If you want to live boldly, self-trust is non-negotiable. It is absolutely essential. And unfortunately, in our society, self-trust is something that gets eroded from a very, very young age. We are taught, especially in school, not to trust ourselves, that we need to listen to some other authority, that we need to follow the rules and conform and basically squash and squelch our own instincts. We are taught basically to doubt ourselves, to not listen to ourselves, to not listen to our intuition, to shut down our own knowing. So that's why reconnecting with your boldness requires self-trust, because without it, we have no access to our own inner compass, our own innate wisdom. We can't develop the confidence to forge our own path. So instead, we follow pre-established ones that have been laid out and presented to us. We lose touch with our instincts and our intuition, the knowing and wisdom that can actually guide us and serve as clues to our callings and our destiny. So I'm excited to get into this topic today with you. It is something I am so passionate about, especially as a coach, because I see my role really with my clients as helping them reconnect and develop their self-trust. Because like I said, in our culture, we have most likely become estranged and cut off from our own knowing. We've definitely lost the confidence in our own perspective as a result of our conditioning. We've been trained to just follow the rules and accept other people's standards and other people's instructions for us and how to live our lives. So let me ask you something. When it comes to making decisions for yourself in your life, who do you turn to? Who do you consult? Whose opinion do you value and respect? Do you look outside yourself for answers and advice? Do you seek instruction and information constantly from external sources, external authorities? Do you feel insecure about making tough choices for yourself? Do you feel a need to validate whatever you're feeling, thinking, or deciding? These are all signs that you have lost that trust in yourself that we were all probably born with. But like I said, over our lifetime and very early on in our lives, we are taught to absolutely disconnect from it and ignore it. One of my favorite movies of all time that perfectly exemplifies this lesson about self-trust is Dead Poets Society, with Robin Williams playing the role of Mr. Keating, who is an English teacher at an all-boys boarding school, really emphasizes like tradition and discipline and kind of a very strict, rigid way of being that Mr. Keating comes in and just completely disrupts and throws all his students for a loop. When one of the first days of class, he tells them to open their poetry textbook and asks one of them to start reading. And then shortly after, he instructs them to rip out the page and to rip out the entire introduction.
Rip it out! Rip! Be gone, J. Evans Pritchard, PhD!
Because he finds it so ridiculous how the textbook author tries to reduce poetry almost to this formula to measure the greatness of a poem. So already you can see that he is going to be teaching them lessons in trusting themselves. And he even says to them directly, when you read, don't ask what the author thinks, ask what you think. And then throughout the movie, he continues to encourage and empower his students to really think for themselves and trust themselves. not to just accept whatever they're given, even if it's by a assumed authority. And I feel like when it comes to self-trust, that is the kind of revolutionary work we all must do for ourselves. We have to retrain ourselves. We have to unlearn this insidious habit of outsourcing authority. We have to learn how to validate ourselves instead of constantly seeking advice, approval, and permission externally from others. We have to learn to have faith in our own judgment, to rely on our own instincts, to tune in to our own intuition if we want to live boldly. So hopefully you're starting to recognize the importance and crucial role that self-trust plays in connecting to your boldness. Maybe you are starting to recognize the ways and the places that you lack self-trust or you have very low self-trust. What can you do about it? The continuous training we've had to not trust ourselves, to doubt ourselves, is so deep. It really does take some retraining, and it takes time and effort to rebuild that self-trust and to deepen it, especially when you are in the habit of always seeking answers, advice, approval, and validation from others. It's a hard habit to break. But that being said, I want to give you 3 steps you can take, 3 things you can do to rebuild and strengthen the self-trust that you may have lost. The first tip or the first step is really about forging a more trusting relationship with yourself. It's really about getting to know yourself more so that you even understand who you are, what you think, what's your perspective, where are you coming from. And this step will allow you to start retuning into your own instincts and intuition and reestablish that faith in your own judgment. So the first step is really to build a relationship with yourself. And that might sound odd, so let me give you a couple different examples of ways you could apply this. One way is through journaling. I am a huge proponent of writing and journaling as a way of getting to know yourself and also building self-trust. One simple, straightforward way you could start with this is to try a practice called morning pages, which was invented by Julia Cameron, who wrote a book called The Artist Way. And she came up with this tool that she has been teaching for decades probably at this point. So you may have heard of this term before, morning pages. Maybe you even tried it before. Essentially, it is a habit of writing 3 pages every morning. She strongly encourages you to write by hand, like longhand on paper. I personally don't think that's necessary. You can do whatever feels most comfortable for you. If you want to try writing by hand, I invite you to do that, but I don't think that there is one right way to do this practice. I think if you're more comfortable typing or writing on your computer, I think that is just as valid and helpful. So it's up to you. We're all about building self-trust, right? So you decide what works for you, maybe play around with different ways to see what fits you the best. But I'm just relaying her instructions, which is to write 3 pages longhand every morning. And she says do it first thing when you wake up before you do anything else. And what you're really writing is just stream of consciousness. It's really whatever thoughts are in your head, you're just writing them out. One tip that can help you is just to keep your hand moving. Always keep the pen moving. Don't stop or pause or linger. Just basically brain dump and get out anything that's on your mind and fill 3 pages and then stop. Again, I don't think you have to be this rigid or strict with it. I used to have my own rule of just writing 3 pages a day, and that was like my quota. And I would fit it in whenever I had time. A lot of times I would do it at a coffee shop. And so I kind of made this routine or this ritual out of it, of going and getting my coffee and sitting at my same table every day and doing my 3 pages. So like I said, find a way that feels good to you, that works for you, and don't get too hung up on the specific rules. But any kind of journaling practice like this where you are continually checking in with yourself. And as I like to think of it, staying current with yourself is really helpful in developing self-trust. It helps you get to know your own mind and your own patterns, your own desires, your own wisdom will start to come out. It's a great tool for building self-awareness, and I think a byproduct of that self-awareness is having more confidence that you do have a perspective, that you do have instincts and knowledge and wisdom that you can access. So that is my first tip for you. I highly, highly recommend doing some form of journaling or writing exercise on a consistent basis as you start to build this relationship and this trust with yourself. In addition to this suggestion, I think another great way to start strengthening your relationship with yourself is through solitude. A lot of times we fill our days and our lives with other people's agendas in a way. And I think having a regular time, even if it's just once a week, where you spend time alone, or as I like to think of it, spend time with yourself. Consider it like a date with yourself or a relationship with yourself. But I really just think solitude in and of itself is so valuable when it comes to establishing and deepening a relationship with yourself, and in turn developing a stronger sense of self-trust. And like I said, think of it as spending time with yourself, that you are in a relationship with you, and that you matter and you deserve your attention. You deserve to connect with yourself and to do what you want to do without even worrying about other people's opinions or agendas or expectations. So spend time with you. My second tip is actually more of a dare for you, or a challenge. And that is, I dare you to go a week without asking anyone else for their advice, without seeking instructions or validation externally. First of all, see if you can even do it. Like, that's the challenge, right? And see what comes up for you when you can no longer rely on other people to tell you what to do or give you their opinion or their feedback. Instead, when you feel that urge to ask someone else for their opinion or their advice, or even to have them validate something you're thinking about doing or trying, see how it feels when that is no longer an option because you've told yourself you're not going to do that. And instead focus consciously on checking in with yourself and asking, what do I think? What does my judgment say is best? What do my instincts tell me here? I promise you that if you take on this challenge with an open mind and heart, it has the potential to change your life and start transforming your relationship with yourself so that you do trust yourself more and you're less dependent on other people to guide you and validate you. So that's tip number 2. See if you can go an entire week without seeking advice or external validation, and just see what happens. You might become aware of how often you are relying on other people for that sense of security and confidence in your own decisions and your own perspective. And maybe you will make it more of a intentional practice to not seek advice so much and to tune in and consult your own wisdom instead. So the third tip kind of goes along with that second one, but it's a way you can kind of start to reframe internally the way you think about the different choices that you have to make every day. So this tip arose out of my own personal experience, where I realized that not only would I ask, other people for their advice or opinion, but I would even frame it in a way as, should I do this or that? Or what should I do? So the whole idea that there is a should implies that there is a right way or a right path or a right decision, a right perspective, and a wrong one. So to break this habit, anytime you find yourself even asking yourself, like if you've committed to not seeking others' advice, you still might be thinking internally, well, should I do this or that? Or how should I approach this? Anything where you're using the word should, or you're assuming that there is a rule of some kind of right or correct way to do something and then a wrong way, reframe that question. Instead of asking, what should I do? Change should to want and ask, what do I want to do? Even something as simple as like, should I text this person back? Or should I take a shower tonight or in the morning? Or it's just silly, simple little decisions. Start shifting the language that you use with yourself from should and that energy to the idea of want and that you have choice. Because really, there is no should. That's a saying that I have now. Anytime I hear should from myself or someone else, namely my husband, we both say to each other, if we catch that should, we almost immediately respond, there is no should. And that kind of helps us get back in touch with our self-trust. Because ultimately, we are the decider, we are the authority. There really is no objective like right and wrong. So breaking that habit can really go a long way towards building that sense of trust and confidence and faith in your own judgment, your own ability to make tough choices, or even, like I said, small trivial choices. You are using this as a practice to build that foundation of self-trust. So try out one or all of these tips and let me know in the comments which one you're going to try so you can start strengthening and deepening your self-trust and ultimately reconnect with your boldness. And remember, there are 3 essential meta skills for living boldly, and self-trust is one of those 3. So make sure you watch the other 2 videos to get the full recipe for boldness. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.